he do? He might go all the way. He gives it a ride. It's a chance. It'll be a goal. You beauty, buddy. Wants to roll through. He can. Come at the moment. Come at the champion. Yes, he's done it. I don't believe it. I see it, but I don't believe it.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Swans Blog, Swanscast. Tonight, I'm joined by Titus O'Reily. Titus, how are you?
I'm well.
And where would our listeners know you from?
Well, probably from Twitter and online, and also Channel 7 as well, and I do Nova FM as well. So a few different places, but a lot of them would probably know me from social media, I imagine.
And definitely those funny tweets that come in during the week, especially on the weekend.
Yeah, yes, it's all pretty busy on social media over managing to watch every single game each week.
Absolutely. And what else are you doing at the moment? I hear there's a bit of comedy on the horizon for you.
Yeah, I've got a few things going on at the moment. One of them, I'm coming up to Sydney in later in the bye week before the finals. So on Friday, September the 1st, I'm doing a show at the Concourse Concert Hall up there. So that's me doing live stand-up for about an hour, and then Sergio Paradise, who I do my podcast with, comes out and joins me. And I've done, this will be my third show up in Sydney now over the last couple of years. We did it in the bye round last week, and it was last year, and it was really fun.
And you've had pretty good ticket sales on that, and it's going gangbusters?
Yeah, no, going really well. So if people are interested, you can jump online, either go to my website or they're also on sale through, in Sydney, they're through ticketek.com.au as well. So we had a good one last year, and this year it didn't look like this earlier in the year, but it looks like we could have both Sydney teams in the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll definitely get to the Giants and the Swans. There's definitely a bit of wrap-up from the weekend where the Swans and Demons are concerned. What's your thoughts on the game?
Well, I thought it was interesting because Melbourne have, I'm a Melbourne supporter, and Melbourne have won 4 games in a row until then, and I can't even remember that happening before, so that was pretty amazing. And then they had a lot of injuries, so I wasn't very confident, and then Viney going off didn't help. But the thing that struck me most, I think everyone was a bit in shock after Bugg hit Mills in that early on thing.
Yeah,
and
the first 4 minutes.
I remember seeing it, and everyone was just, even all the Melbourne supporters where I was sitting were just in shock, because it was, not only was it a low act, it got extra points for stupidity, because the week we just had, it's never, let's be clear, it's never a good time to hit anyone. But doing it the week after we just had the debates about Basher Hawley.
Oh, if there was any week not to do it, it was definitely this week.
That's right. So I think he deserves at least an extra couple of weeks off on top of whatever he normally gets for stupidity. And for Melbourne at a time when, they've got half their list out, and they really do have a lot of injuries, it wasn't a very smart move. But I almost thought for a moment in that early bit of the game that you guys might stuff it up by just not being able to kick straight.
Oh,
it was unbelievable.
That's a fear that every Swan supporter had. Like you said, you haven't really remembered the last time that Demons won 4 in a row. I actually can't even remember a game where I've seen a team have their first 8 shots miss. Not even a goal. It was incredible.
Yeah, Gary Rowan was having a nightmare early on. He was almost Melbourne's best player in the first 15 minutes. And then
single-handedly kept you in it.
Yeah, it just kept going on and on and on. And, and I kept thinking, because it was such an I think, you were 11 behind at one point. It was such an overwhelming dominance that I was like, this can't continue. But then Melbourne sort of kicked back and kicked those 4 or so goals. And I suddenly thought, well, it'll be interesting to see Sydney keep going here, or whether, sometimes the side kind of realises it's not their night. But to your boys' credit, they're a bit like the Swans of old, rather than that Swans in the first 6 weeks that we saw, which were not very Swan-like.
No, well, they definitely kept up the yips in front of goals for a few more minutes in the second quarter, and I think it was 2:12 or 2:13 before they started really winding up the goals. So
yeah, it was amazing. It was and they just it was just the weight of you basically. The ball barely even saw our forward 50 for long periods of time. It sort of became a stranger to it. So, you had to win. I mean, if you hadn't lost that, it would have been amazing. But, it is amazing. I went and spoke to Ted Richards had a lunch down here where they did a bit of the club put on a bit of recognising his career down in Melbourne because he had a lot of family down here, and he asked me to come along and speak at that. And I remember at the time I was speaking to that group, there's about 250 Swan supporters, that you were 1-6. And it's kind of bizarre, and I'd tipped you to be 6-1 at that point in the season, so I'd got the numbers right, just round wrong way. And I remember talking to a few Swan supporters and said, well, I don't think you can make finals now, surely. And they're proving me wrong. But they agreed it was the odds. You had to basically not lose any games.
Oh,
you could drop about 2 or 3 for the rest of the season, and lo and behold, that's what you seem to almost be doing.
Oh, look, the next couple of games are going to be telling, but to come back from that far back I think for most Swans supporters, it's a bit of a shock. I think the Swans win over Essendon the week before really encapsulates our season of just what on earth is happening. How have we even done that?
Yeah, no, it'll be. I mean, I think you're also helped by the fact this is just such a crazy season. I mean, this season is drunk. It really needs to give it up.
Like, how was North Melbourne second last?
Oh, that's right. You look at some of the bottom teams. I mean, and look up in Sydney, and I know I've done a lot of stuff up in Sydney over the years, so I know you get a very different. In Melbourne, you get this bubble of Melbourne media where they talk up all the Melbourne sides, even if they're hopeless. But the way people talk up Carlton and North, and you look at them and they're 17th and 16th on the ladder. But I think that just shows that apart from Brisbane, it runs, and even they got up on the weekend. It's a pretty even competition. You can't slack off, and no lead is good enough anymore. You used to get 20 points up, 25 points up, in even 30 points up in the fourth quarter, and you'd think, well, we're home here. And now you just start to get nervous.
Oh yeah, there's been too many comebacks. There's another one with the Giants almost snatching a win. They shouldn't have let the Cats get out that far, but Tom Hawkins, he had a chance to win it and just worst set shot on goal I've seen all season.
I know you Swan supporters will be shattered that that he missed that shot.
I kind of enjoyed that myself. But look, you look at the ladder and it's amazing. There's only 2 games that separates 10th and 4th, and the most incredible part about that is the fact that the Swans gave everyone a 6-game head start and they're 9th.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just shows you that first month isn't really worth it. Just stay home next time. But if you look at it, above you guys, you've got St Kilda, who are hardly convincing, West Coast, who aren't great. Melbourne have now Viney, Salem, Hogan. Who else have they got out?
Soon to be Bugg.
They got Bugg for probably 6. I mean, he should get 6 weeks. I mean, I think just without even debating it. I think anything less than 6 is silly. The thing about it is with that is, I mean, one, he's not an AFL executive, so you can't go around hitting people. You're overseeing the diversity program, but I mean, the way the AFL I think has to crack down on these things, and Mills did go off concussed, but one day a bloke's not going to get up from that.
Oh yeah,
and if the AFL don't crack down on this stuff and say, because the one thing I hate about punches to the head and elbows to the head too is if you can get, it's all what we've learned from the one punch stuff is it all comes down to luck in a way. you can hit a guy with not that much force, but if you crack them just right,
Yeah,
you can do a
absolutely.
lot of trouble. You can kill them. So, the AFL kind of always has put this thing on, Mills was concussed, but, didn't get stretchered off. So does that count as bad? And to me, I'm like, well, Bugg didn't know that when he threw the punch. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? It's not like he coordinated the punch to go, I'm just going to hit him hard enough to, make him feel a bit, concussed rather than kill him.
Exactly.
I mean, so that's, I've seen Bugg. He can't hit a target that closely. So
No, and he has a track record of doing stupid things anyway, so...
well, you guys as a club hated him when he was at GWS, didn't you?
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
yeah. Yeah, no, we did. We did the
You
first couple of
guys got
games.
history.
And he had that Ben McGlynn moment where he's questioning him about the grand final in 2012, back in 2013. So
Yeah.
he's definitely got history doing these sort of things. And I saw your tongue-in-cheek comment on your knee-jerk reaction post today where you said anyone who's a Melbourne supporter knows that it's definitely within character of Tomas Bugg.
Oh, very well. Well, that was the thing with Basher Hawley. A lot of people were sort of surprised he did it. Whether he should have got less weeks because he's supposedly a nice person off the field or not is another debate. But at least most people thought it was out of character. When you heard it was Tomas Bugg, no one was saying, "Well, that's a surprise." But I mean, at the same time at Melbourne, it could have been Jesse Hogan, or it could have been, it could have been Jordan Lewis as well. So being a Melbourne supporter, I've gone from a club that never worried anyone to suddenly we're all drunk and hitting people. So a premiership is round the corner, surely, if previous team success shows it.
Oh, I think Collingwood leads away in that. They're the Trailblazers. But yeah, that's it's certainly really interesting, and that's going to have to be a bit of a litmus test for the AFL when that comes up in a couple of days. And as you would know, that has been referred directly to the tribunal from the MRP. So there's not going to be any dancing around. There's not going to be any of this points being tallied or anything like that. It's straight off to the good bloke policy, and let's see who we can get in as references this week.
Yeah, that's right. Well, but my problem with the whole way it's set up, and the Mills incident is the perfect one, is there's been 3 incidents actually in the last 2 weeks. There's the Basher Hawley, and they're all slightly different. There's actually 4. There's probably more, but 4 I can think of that illustrate the point. Is the AFL judges it on how hard you manage to basically connect, and how much damage you do. And the problem I have with that is you look at the Mills, the Basher Hawley, the one where Schofield clipped Clayton Oliver, and I know that's controversial, that one. But I put it in there for a reason. And then even the Joel Selwood elbow to the back of the head that he did on Sam Mitchell, right? You look at all of those; they're all blows to the head. They all made contact, even though many people argue that Clayton Oliver wasn't that hard. But to me, the AFL has to do something about if you throw an elbow or a punch at a head, the risk. You can't control how hard or where you catch them or the result. So I think the AFL needs to look at it and just say, all of those incidents to me should almost be, 4 weeks or something plus whatever extra depending on how hard. But they should have almost a mandatory sentence.
Yeah, mandatory sentence. I agree. And
that if you throw that, because Schofield, when he got off and everyone said it was insufficient force, I'm like, he actually did make contact with the chin. Even he admitted that, right? So even though whether Clayton staged or not is actually irrelevant in this debate, because I say he didn't know he was only going to clip Oliver. He was lucky. What if Oliver had leant in slightly, or what if just Oliver had caught him in a certain way? And that's the thing with Callum Mills is a perfect example. Callum Mills could be in a coma right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's where for me, intent, and then and all that doesn't really matter. But then when Bugg came on Channel 7 straight afterwards and said he didn't mean to hurt the bloke, that was his kind of what he said on the post-match interview. That
I don't know if that was very genuine though, but he came on and
I know he came on. I'm sure he came on.
Yeah, he came on.
Know. Yeah, he came on and try and knew he'd done the wrong thing and thought it best that he apologised. But to say you didn't mean hurt the bloke, well,
he's taken a fair swing.
you throw a punch, you have no control of what happens next. That's the whole message of the one punch campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
So the AFL has to really is behind on this, I think.
Yeah, they're a long way behind. And look, if you go back and look at the rules and the laws of the game, they do say that if you strike or you have an intent to strike, like even if it's just attempted striking, you're supposed to get suspended for it. But this is in every other league except the AFL. The AFL is not going to suspend someone for just having a fresh area and, didn't connect. Play on. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I look at something like what Buddy did this week that he got cited for, and I say the difference with that is, and I think he got let off, did he?
Yeah.
But I look at that, and at least what he was doing there was a footy action.
Yep.
Like it was an attempt to, hip and shoulder, which is part of the game, and we don't want it to. There's always going to be risk, and there's always going to be contact, and not saying get rid of that, but that's very different to an elbow or a closed fist punch. They're just very different things, and that's where I think they can have a lot tougher laws on the throwing the punch or an elbow at the head specifically.
Absolutely. And I think the Joel Selwood one is a really good example of that. And there's tons of examples where players have been on the ground, they've copped knees and elbows. And, Sam Mitchell, he was the recipient of one from Joel Selwood, but he's definitely thrown his own fair share of elbows to players on the ground. So,
well, he's more a kneer.
Yeah.
He more prefers to knee people. So, they've all got their little special... It's like finishing moves in the WWE.
Oh,
they've all got their favourites.
And Hodges got his good old drive-by elbow as well.
Yeah, no, it's all... as I always say, it's all Hawthorn's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't know if you've got any heroes or villains of the week. Would you have any?
Well, I mean, villain easily was Bugg, because even, it's bad when even me being a Melbourne supporter, no Melbourne supporters going, well, hang on, he's a good guy, or no one's even half-hearted offered a bit of it. Like the Richmond supporters on Basher Hooley were out saying, he was trying to break a tackle and wasn't looking, and you know what I mean? They were all offering excuses, even if they knew it was a bit of nonsense.
Nonsense.
We haven't even launched a slight fight back. It's just like, it was a dog act. He totally did it. Yeah, he's a shit bloke too.
Yeah. Piss him off pretty much.
Yeah, so that's kind of... I thought another villain was, Nick Rewalt. Did you see the incident?
I did.
He got the ball thrown back to him after a free kick, and the umpire wasn't looking, so he purposely didn't catch it, and then pretended the guy hadn't returned it to him.
Oh, the umpire got sucked in big time on that one. That was
It
wasn't great to sort of see that, but it was still pretty funny to watch it at the time.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it is clever, but at the same time you got to kind of say, well, it is a bit of a low act. But anyway,
absolutely.
And then I thought Michael Walters was my hero playing. Not many people probably saw it. It was on Foxtel on Fox Footy. It's in the evenings twilight Sunday game, but he almost single-handedly beat St Kilda. He had 32 touches and kicked six goals, 2 behinds, and 18 of his possessions were contested.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal, and I've been waiting for him to fire all season, and he's definitely shown that he's got the ability to do it. It's just they've been so shit at times. That team has been so inconsistent, it's unbelievable.
I know, it's just terrible watching Ross Lyon go through all that pain, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I can really sympathise with him too much. I mean, it is Fremantle after all.
That's right.
But no, they're a couple of great ones, and for myself, my villain of the week has definitely got to be the what's his name, Ali Fahua.
Oh yes, our the manager diversity of the AFL.
That's right. He's I can't believe he's actually done something so incredibly stupid after Bugg's done something so incredibly stupid. Like I said before, if there's a week you don't want to do it, this is it. I mean, Bugg's already put the spotlight on it.
Right. That's where the AFL would be extra annoyed, because it's sort of a long chain back to, they tried to ban jumper punches, and ever since then everyone's belting each other like something's in the water.
Or at least they're trying to rough each other without using their fists, using elbows, using heads, using everything else.
Yeah, that's right. So, and if people haven't seen it, Ali for just playing suburban football has decked an opponent while he wasn't looking.
I
Almost like Bugg. It was almost worse, though.
I reckon it was worse than Bugs because, like, they were next to each other, but he's come running in from way outside and knocked the guy out when he wasn't even looking anywhere near that general direction.
And I think he clocked him a lot harder, like almost with an elbow. And that's another one where you look at it and just go. But I mean, doing stupid things is kind of in the job description of being an AFL executive, so it doesn't really surprise me.
Well, you never know. He could be upgraded to the commission anytime soon.
That's right. That's right. So it's what I find astounding is the AFL have said they're not really going to make any comment until that local football league, I think it's the Northern Football League down here in Melbourne, have got their tribunal hearing on Wednesday, and the AFL have said they're not going to make any comment on him until that tribunal sits.
It's a bit of a
and the
weird
footage
one.
is like one, the footage is clear. He just decked the bloke, and two, he came out and made no defence. Said I totally did it, and I'm ashamed by my actions. And what I love is the AFL. I mean, really, how can they keep this guy on?
Oh yeah.
But instead, they're saying, well, we're going to wait for the Northern Football League Tribunal before making comment. Like the Northern Football Tribunal is, the Supreme Court. It's just like they're following some sort of nonsense due process that has to. It's a footy tribunal. They can still sack a bloke.
Well, why don't they just take Tomas Bugg down there as well? Do it all on Wednesday night. Get it all done with at the same time.
It's pretty bad when you got players and AFL executives both facing tribunals at the same time.
Throw them under the same boss.
So anyway, that's another one where it seems like it's like Basher Hooley did something stupid, so then Tomas Bugg said, "Well, I'll take the focus off you then, mate." And then Ali Vaugh's gone,
Getting one up you.
I'll fix it for you, mate. So, I don't know. Maybe Eddie Maguire's going to punch someone tomorrow or something.
Or Buckley will punch someone out.
That's right.
Oh, look, the worst thing is the bloke actually has a track record of doing it. And the Herald Sun had an article about it before where he's actually clocked someone previously. So
right.
He's not exactly innocent, and he's not exactly a good character or a good bloke, as you put it.
Well, maybe this is Ali Fahur, you mean?
Yeah, Ali Fahur.
Oh, so maybe when they talk about AFL diversity, he's for violent and non-violent people. Yep. So he's doing all types.
Maybe he's diverse in who he strikes.
That's right. He'll hit anyone, no matter what their colour or creed or religious background. I think that's great.
Yeah. No prejudice, just anyone.
No, he'll hit anyone.
All right. Now, for my hero of the week, I'm giving it to an entire team. I'm giving it to the Brisbane Lions.
Oh, they were very good.
Yeah, and for them to come down to Melbourne, and let's face it, they've been in a pretty rotten run of form, to take it away from the Bombers. Not a big margin, but a win all the same. It's a very good thing for that football club. They need as many wins as they possibly can, and they need to get really good games into the young players, and they desperately need to keep them.
Well, they've been signing all their players recently, like in the last
Shaqi
2 months.
Signed, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was the big one, but they've signed about 6 other lesser-known players. They've gone from not being able to retain a single person to, being really quite good at retaining players. So I think I think they're starting to turn the corner. I genuinely think they're actually, going to get somewhere in the next few years, and I think they've got the right coach for the first time. Yeah, I think not having a red-headed coach has really been a good move for them.
Yeah, that actually does seem to have done him pretty good. It was
a disastrous run, wasn't it?
Oh, it really was.
Lepic.
Voss got them into the finals, and then they just collapsed in a heap after that. And what was it, like 2 or 3 seasons ago? They had, I think, 5 or 6 players, all their young kids, all the really good young kids, just up and leave and demand out of the football club.
Yeah, they lost a lot of players.
Yeah, but they're doing well. Chris Fagan's up there; he's doing a fantastic job. So the club's finally got themselves together. They're inconsistent, but they're getting better. So the next couple of years is definitely a lot to like about them.
And everyone was backing for them when it looked like they were about to overrun Essendon. So it was a feel-good story. It was a comeback story we could actually all get behind.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I honestly wish that they win every other game except when they play the Swans. Fortunately, we've already played them, so it's not going to be a problem. Now, did you by chance happen to catch the Horn and Pacquiao fight?
I did, and I've loved a couple of things. I've loved the Americans' reaction to the fight. That's been great. I also love the fact that in Australia you can become a national hero by beating up a 38-year-old.
It really is a true example for the society these days, isn't it? Beat players up on the field, beat them up in a ring.
Well, there's no doubt when you saw the after photos, Jeff Horn looked like he'd been the victim of an assault, and Manny Pacquiao looked like he'd barely been touched. And then on top of that, you had this thing I find with boxing, and I'm not a boxing hater, but I find it amazing with boxing so often. You never see two blokes in their prime going at it. It's always like either two guys who are both really past it, or it's like that one where one's younger and one's, Pacquiao's 38 now and he's definitely not at his prime anymore.
No.
And he still went pretty close. So
he should have won that fight. And one of the judges had it 117 to 111 Horn. And I've got to be honest, I agreed with the American judges when they were screaming and ranting. Just what fight were they watching? And every article I've read since has basically said, what fight were they watching? That was not 117, 111.
Yeah, no, it was strange. I mean, but you're sort of used to strange scoring. I mean, I did find it a bit funny when the Americans were going nuts about it, and then found out some of the judges were American. How many fights in America has the judging been crazy? I mean, This is the problem boxing has. Even people who really enjoy boxing kind of find it hard to defend some of the stuff that goes on with it these days.
It was a fantastic fight all the same.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it was amazing. I mean, just the fact that Horn managed to stay in there and did fight a good fight overall is pretty amazing. So, I did find it amazing looking at the difference in ages.
Yeah, and look, Pacquiao's. You're right. He's old and he's not quite in his prime anymore. But
I mean, he's still a great a fighter, though. I mean, it's. I couldn't last. I probably only last 6 or 7 rounds with him.
I think I might last about 6 or 7 punches.
Yeah, that's right. I think it would be a true one punch. So those guys are amazing.
Probably still knock me out even with the head guard on.
That's right.
But look, he almost had him down in the 9th round as well. He punished him. It was all over him. Horn was almost on his ass at one point. And the ref came in and he said, look, show me something or else I'm going to stop the fight. And to his credit, he came out the next 2-3 rounds. He pretty much clinched the fight from there. But you're right. Looking at the side of his face, car accident. And Pacquiao looked like he'd barely even worked up a sweat for the whole match. So it was...
If anything, Pacquiao just started slowly. So if there's any argument that, for Horn winning, you can mount an argument that Pacquiao started pretty badly, and that was probably and that's the difference in a round by round scoring. It's not, it's not like a footy game of who finishes strongly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's done. That's the way it works. So,
and he certainly wasn't the most aggressive fighter throughout the fight, anyway. And I think that's probably what the judges went for. Landing punches, he wasn't anywhere near it. I think it was 13%. 13% of punches to about 30% of punches landed. So it's really quite incredible that he won the fight, considering the fact that he threw only about 60 or 70 more punches, but landed almost 100 less. So
that's right.
But yeah, look, that one's going to be a hot topic for a while. the Australian news are unsurprisingly like, yeah, let's just call him a champion and move on. And
well, Bruce McAvaney said he's the most important person in Australian sport at the moment, which, I found a bit, perhaps a little bit over the top.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit over the top too. I think Danny Green's still relevant.
Well, I saw Danny Green came out in defence of Bugg today.
I certainly hope not.
Yeah, no, he did. I'll find it while I'm here, but I just found it...
Unless he's suggesting he should become a boxer himself.
He should give up on the
trying to be a footballer.
Whole thing, but...
How'd you guys get him again? Was that through that AFL reality show?
He's from the recruit. No, boxing, Danny Green said there is not much in Melbourne defenders Tom Bugg's punch that knocked out Sydney youngster Callum Mills on Friday night. So, which I found quite amazing given he said this on SEN, which is the radio sports station down here on the radio. He said there's not much in that incident whatsoever. It was very bad luck on Tom's part that he actually landed the shot. He got bumped and all he sort of did was lash out with his arm. It wasn't like he was trying to hit him or trying to hurt him. He was just lashing out. Well, I think when you got to remember when you read those quotes from Danny Green is Danny's been hit in the head a lot.
Yeah, maybe one too many times, I think, with a comment like that. But
well, I mean, considering Danny's like the face of a one punch can kill campaign, but like I said, he's had a lot of blows to the head. So let's
yeah, I'm not sure where those comments really came from. What sort of drove those comments?
He was being interviewed about the. He was being interviewed about the Horn fight on SEN, and they started to ask him about it. So, and then he said of Mills, obviously he doesn't have a strong chin. He gets knocked out and got concussed pretty badly. Well, so that's nice of Danny to chime in there.
Well, isn't it what you were talking about last week with Sergio, that especially with concussions, you don't have to have a granite chin. You can get brushed and you can get knocked out, and that's really about it.
Well, I mean, that's part of the thing is, like, I just know from talking to people who've worked in this, and I knew someone that got killed playing footy, and what happened with them is they just got basically a bump that they weren't expecting, and it was not very hard at all.
Yeah.
And the doctors, I remember afterwards saying, that just sometimes happens. The brain's a funny thing. It can get... Now, that's not always, but the risk is always there. It can just catch you in a certain way. And, you see people sometimes on the footy field getting absolutely cleaned up and have no concussion.
Yeah.
Or getting punched and be fine. So, there's... it's just obviously something that I don't pretend to be an expert with, but it seems to me to not have any... it's not always relative to... It's a combination of where someone is hit, partly how hard it is, the angle, and how their own body reacts, basically.
Yeah.
And I love all the tough guys. They were doing this with the Clayton Oliver and people doing it with Callum. I mean, Danny Green is a tough guy, but all the footy fans on social media going, I barely touched him.
Barely touched him.
Most of these guys would have never even been hit.
But his face almost went 180 degrees. That's how hard he hit him. He got him flush.
Oh, look, he hit him pretty hard, but also... Callum's a football player. They train for a certain type of being hit, not being hit in the head thousands of times.
Not only that, they're doing it with their fists, not with gloves. So,
yeah, that's right. So, that's right. So, I mean, that's the thing I also think is like, Mills wasn't really expecting Bugg to hit him too. He wasn't ready for it either.
I would think it would be reasonable to expect that no one would expect to be hit when running side by side with another player like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's times when players square up and do all the jumper punches and that where, and I'm not saying that makes it okay, but at least, the player thinks this could happen to me,
yeah.
But with this one, it was just kind of out of left field. It was a little bit out of left field there.
Well, it's a bit like watching Mike Sheehan do his interviews with players from the 50s and 60s and 70s talking about how they used to square up and the umpires used to say, all right, you squared up, off you go, keep going.
Yeah, it's a bit like the ice hockey, where...
Decking players off the back, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's not a good look, but I think another player, like you said, you've talked to doctors, another player, a very famous example, is Blake Caracella. That just goes to show what an accidental impact to the neck or the head can actually do to a player on the field.
Yeah.
And do you remember that incident?
Yeah.
And that sort of really preceded the whole let's protect the head. That was back in 2003, 2004.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing that's happening now is we're finding all the huge impact these things have on people and long term, and it doesn't even need to be a knockout punch. So, that's the reality of what the AFL now faces ahead of itself that it has to watch out for.
Absolutely, and I thought they went about it the right way a few years ago when they basically said head is sacrosanct. Let's protect the head at all costs and give free kicks where it's high and things like that. And then players found a way to exploit it, and they really did exploit it. And there was that particular Brisbane Lions player on debut. He got how many free kicks for high? Was it 12 or 13?
Matheson or whatever? He
yes.
got about 4 or 5. Yeah.
He got a heap
and
of them.
Selwood is the poster child.
Yes, he is. But the one thing you can say about Selwood is he's actually pretty tough. And a couple of weeks ago, he proved it.
Well, I have no problem with Selwood being tough because I think there's no debate about Selwood being tough. But the thing that's always bothered me about Selwood is not about him being tough, but about the fact that, the AFL have brought in a rule rightly to try and minimise the impact of long-term injury on players. And done it actually for once with the best intentions of protecting players and how, and their long-term health and mental health and all those sort of things, all the things we're learning. And they bring in this rule to protect the players. And then someone like Selwood, is an undisputed star of the game, exploits that.
Yep.
One, to his own potential detriment. But I think, well, what's that sending as a message to all the junior players and everything? And you can just bet a fair bit of them are copying that. So to me, I think what he's doing is it's undoubtedly he's very good at it and all those things. But I do find it a bit, distasteful that he's using, he's learned a trick that's actually, he's not exploiting like just a normal rule loophole. This is one that, actually needs some support from players. So that's been always my issue with it.
The age-old saying, you give someone a string of rope and they'll hang themselves with it.
Yeah, but at what point the players have to the AFL can only do so much to protect players' heads. And there's an element of, you talk to rugby players and things like that, they know about, who have a lot of neck injuries and stuff like that. That they know that there's certain ways to behave out on the field. As much as you go hard, there are certain things you don't do in the scrum and certain things you don't do in tackles, because if you do, you're really going to hurt someone, and they self-regulate to a fair extent. There's always some idiot, but overall, and that's my issue a bit with it. I know it's getting on probably a bit of a high horse about it, but I just find it a little bit like, it's all right for Selwood, sure, but we don't know the long-term issues he's going to have.
And I think the AFL's been a bit slow to catch up on that anyway, especially where the players are concerned.
But it's very hard for the AFL and both the AFL and umpires to enforce a rule like that if you're going to have someone like Selwood so openly and successfully exploit it.
Yeah.
Because it leaves the umps with the position of either going, oh, well, we'll just not pay that as much. So,
and that's what they've done this season. They've had to do it this season because
that's right. And I think it's to the detriment of players' long-term health, and that's all come around from now. Now they have to guess because the game's just too fast.
Absolutely.
So,
and look,
that's where I actually think that the AFL, it is up to the players a little bit of how they want to set this out. And the fact Selwood, the only reason Selwood doesn't get accused of being a ducker more than or a stager, as that you saw Oliver being called a stager and other players have been called a stager like Rand. Well, you could argue what he's doing is staging on a massive amount. Now, the only reason he seems to, he's overcompensated by being so tough in every other way, which he is, that he's sort of immune from that criticism. But if any other player did it like he did, they'd be called a stager all the time.
Yeah, they really would. And I think it all started a bit in the early part of last year. And you look at players like Lindsay Thomas, who was probably the most highest profile player and potentially the highest profile incident of trying to milk free kicks where there weren't free kicks or induce head-high contact. You know, with the game they had in Tasmania against Sydney, where he was able to drag Nick Smith's arm from a normal tackle all the way up around his head just by, reaching for his phone and doing a phone call sort of action.
Yeah.
And that's really forced the AFL to make changes to how they're supposed to adjudicate head-high contact to now basically go back to almost 15 years ago, where if you leap with your head, we're not going to protect you.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's, on the weekend, especially with the Swans and Demons game, there was 2 examples, and they both went to the MRP, and they were both let go. There was Zach Jones on Mitch Hannon and Lance Franklin on Mitch Hannon. Now, did you catch these at the ground?
I saw them, but not well, and then I've seen them both on replay a few times as well. And obviously being a Melbourne sport, they're brutal incidences, and your play should have been rubbed out forever.
I think Mitch Hannon needs to go for staging.
But I mean, like those things are going to happen, I guess. And I thought they're probably the right decisions by the match review panel. But I just think it's a more complex area now than it needed to be because of players doing this stuff. And it's a case where at some point the AFL are going to be saying, well, we kept trying to bring in the right rules, and a minority of players kept doing the wrong thing, making it almost impossible to actually police.
And that's something that maybe the AFLPA can come in consultation with the AFL and, set sort of the ground rules of, accepted gamesmanship or sportsmanship for the players within games. Let's try not to do things like this. Let's try not to be, let me find it. I've got my little document here with who's in the MRP. Let's try not to do Webster's eye gouge incident and, absolutely crazy things like that, which is absolutely beyond reason. I honestly don't even know why Webster would actually eye gouge Subin.
No, it's something to be avoided.
That's not even excusable. I mean, not even a good bloke reference is going to save him on that one.
No, that's one of the. I think there's a pretty strong consensus that eye gouging is not something that people appreciate.
Maybe back in the 20s or 30s, yeah, but we've kind of moved on from those years.
That's right.
Last time I checked, we aren't doing spot kicks or place kicks on the field, so
no,
it's pretty incredible what some of the players get away with these days. All the good old punching to the guts and you don't even get a fine, or if you get a fine, it's only like $500, $1,000. It's really nothing in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's the missing time that really affects them in a major way.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if there's something the AFLPA can do there to improve player standards on the field, then I think that's something that they should do. But I think I might be clutching for a straw that doesn't exist. So, or hanging myself on a branch that's about wafer thin.
That's right.
I think I'm asking too much of something that's not going to deliver. So now the rest of the MRP talk. So Zach Jones was cleared of any wrongdoing, and this was again like the Lance Franklin incident. This was a football act. They're both going for the ball, and the main difference was Hannon led with his head. He went in head first. Zach Jones went in body first, and then he shouldered up and kept his line, while Hannon sort of I don't know, it wasn't really head over ball. He was just going head first, a bit like Horn was against Pacquiao, and got his head clipped.
Well, I thought it was two players going for the ball, and it was kind of, as occasionally happens, they sort of both entered the competition awkwardly.
Yep.
Not in their own fault, but just the nature of the 360 nature, degree nature of our game means that happens.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes the players are in a odd position when they meet up, but I didn't think there was anything, particularly untoward.
Yeah. I look, it certainly wasn't a nasty one, and I know after the game, the guys on Foxtel, especially that bloke who's always talking about MRP news. I can't remember his name.
John Ralph?
Yeah, John Ralph, the guy who was always trying to blow everything out of proportion and sensationalise everything. He's saying, Zach Jones is going to get a week for that. And I think everyone else with, an IQ above 2 was basically saying he's not going to get a thing for that. So
no, and I think the fact Mitch didn't go off for there's sort of impacts but no, I think that would have been. I mean, it is still a contact sport.
Yeah, you can't outlaw that sort of stuff. I mean, you can look at players like Jack Siebel they're reckless. They go in hard, but they're reckless in what they do. And look, he's been fined for something silly again, and Mitch McGovern's been fined for striking. So there's another example of just body striking and things like that. And I've got to be honest, there's actually quite a lot of fines this round. I think there's about 6 or 7 fines all up. So.
Well, I think the match review panel are a bit low in their end of season drinks fund. You'll find
the beer fridge has been cleaned out already.
That's right. That's right. So they need some money for Ali Fahor's legal defence.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, moving on, we've got the rest of the round to talk about. So you did a pretty nice knee-jerk reaction write-up where you've sort of gone through each one of them. So if you don't mind, I'll just sort of read a quick sort of quote from each game, if that's okay.
Sure.
So you got the Melbourne-Sydney game. This week Melbourne's players were either injured, drunk, or belting people. They were more bad 21st party than football team, and the result proved that. I think
it was true. They were all over the shop.
I think that is 100% reasonable. Can't argue with that. Then we've got Western Bulldogs and West Coast. And I think you're totally right that saying, the Bulldogs are playing at home against a team that travels worse than tired toddlers. Yeah. And
that was terrible. I think the Bulldogs are probably, you'd argue, out of contention after that.
Yeah. Well, look, they never looked strong from about the 4th or 5th round into the season. They've looked pretty ordinary, but yeah, I was shocked when I saw the scoreline. I couldn't believe it.
No, they played terribly. The game was really, they sort of didn't wake up until late into the third quarter, and did well to even get close, really. And
there's been a bit of talk about the premiership hangover, or too young a team getting up like Hawthorn did in 2008 or Essendon back in 1993, but I don't think that's the case at all. They're kind of fallen back into what they were a couple of years ago, just like Port Adelaide did after their run in 2014 or 2014.
Yeah, 14.
And then 2015 and 16 they were pretty bad afterwards. So I think they're back in what they usually are.
Yeah.
Then we've got Carlton Adelaide. There's a lot to like about Carlton. I mean, not the club or the fans or any of the people involved. They're all awful. But as a football team, they are heading in the right direction.
Well, I've long said about Carlton. Remember when Buddy got into trouble for throwing the imaginary spear?
Yeah, yep.
And there was all these people in the media saying, well, he pretended to throw a spear. It was at Carlton supporters.
Yep.
And I thought, I wouldn't care if someone threw a real spear at a Carlton supporter.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely agree there. And then we've got Gold Coast and North Melbourne. Even though he hates them, the Gold Coast helped deliver a win to Gary Ablett in his 300th game. That they did.
I think he'll be gone next year.
Yeah.
I think he'll be down in Geelong again.
And I reckon he'll be playing on peanuts as well.
He's still got 37 possessions, so someone who's, he's not getting any worse.
He's still probably got another good 2 years ahead of him if he can keep his body right.
Oh, and if he goes into that Geelong side where he can probably play forward most of the time.
Yeah, as a small forward.
Mm-hmm.
He could feasibly play another 3-4 years.
It would be great to see Geelong have some success, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like they've been starved for it 60, 70 years. GWS and Geelong. I like this line. Whoever is writing this season must have watched a lot of Lost growing up. Just as you think you're about to learn something that will fill in some of the gaps, nothing is resolved and everything gets more confusing. Yep.
Yeah, well, we were meant to find out who was better. It was a draw, so...
that last quarter was probably a quarter to forget for a couple of those players.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it keeps everyone else's hopes alive that really any side can lose it this year as well as win it. So
absolutely. And
I
that
wouldn't want
brings
to be playing you guys late in September the way you're improving. You're kind of just peaking at the right time of the season's not very fair.
Well, there is no such thing as a July premiere. Well, that brings.
I was disappointed to learn that. I thought Melbourne had won the premiership the way we were celebrating. But anyway.
Oh, look, Rowan Connolly was talking up Melbourne in the media. Started last week as well. Did the article about why Melbourne can win the grand final or win the premiership, and had a chat about it with him last week. And look, to his credit and to Melbourne's credit, they were travelling really well for a good period of time, and then that. So, yeah, they don't get any sympathy votes from anyone. And then probably the worst loss of the round, Port Adelaide and Richmond. Port's inability to beat the top sides has long been discussed, and it turns out they can't beat Richmond either. Yep, agreed, 100%. And it's going to be a while before we find out whether or not this is a genuine Richmond team. So,
yeah, I find it hard to kind of know if they actually. I can't trust them. Years have trained me to not trust them.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones where, look, they could easily be top of the ladder, and well clear on top of the ladder if they actually knew how to win a game or close out a game.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I mean, imagine a Richmond premiership.
Oh, please no. Then we've got Essendon's famous choke against Brisbane. Yeah, I like this one. It turns out after the past few weeks, they were talking about their opponents when you were talking about the comeback story. You got that one wrong.
Yeah, no, they've just been terrible.
Oh, they really have. And look, there were shades of early in the season when Hawthorn and Collingwood played again. And for all intents and purposes, Collingwood got themselves back at the game, especially after they gave up, I think, 5 or 6 goals to 2 early in the game, exactly as they did early in the season. But, yeah, look, the Nathan Buckley era seems to be over. While sad, we opposition fans probably got 2 more years of it than we could have ever hoped for. Any other coach who inherited a good side and drove them south would have been gone long ago. And absolutely agree. There is nothing you could possibly disagree about that. And it has been, at times, comedy gold. He's been great on TV, great on radio.
I hope he signs on.
Yeah.
I hope he signs on for a bit longer.
There's nothing better than seeing Collingwood anchored at the bottom.
I know, and then you gave them Jesse White as well to really rub the salt in the wound. So there you go.
He actually beat us early in the season. It was an embarrassing game to watch.
But overall, he was payback for for Eddie's campaign against everything.
Oh, I know, everything Sydney. That guy he's a character. Then we've got, I love it, you've called it Michael Walters versus St Kilda. I think this is very apt. It's probably one of his best games of his career. Yeah, look, credit to St Kilda, who only a few weeks ago looked like meekly exiting finals competition. Now, after getting across the line against Michael Walters, they remain in the hunt for September glory. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, they're sort of hanging around. They're one of the sides you'll have to jump over, really, to get in the 8. So,
yep.
And
they're not a bad team, and we've talked about St Kilda a few times on the podcast, and I've said it a few times that they're not a bad team. They can certainly play football. They're just inconsistent and a bit like Richmond. You just never know what you're going to get.
Have you played them yet?
Yeah, we beat them by 50 points.
Yeah.
At the Dome, mind you, so...
Was that early in the season?
Round 8? Yeah,
our
third win in a row, round 8. Back when we were actually playing some pretty good football and not leaving it to the last second to win it. Now, we've got the Swans game coming up against the Suns this weekend. We'll make this one nice and quick because I know you're not travelling too well at the moment.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I've got this thing that everyone in Melbourne's got because we have, lovely winters down here where I just keep losing my voice. And the rest of me's fine, but It doesn't make for good podcasts, I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I'm not too far from where you are at the moment, to be honest. I'm struggling in the background. And I'll tell you what, that Friday night game made for some very, very cold viewing.
It sure did.
Did you see that it was 1 degree on the forecast at about midnight?
Yeah, I had some misgivings about going at all when I started to see how cold it was going to be. But luckily, where I was, you can go inside to the bar fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And the way Melbourne were playing, I was doing that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think even if I was near a bar, I would have gone into the bar pretty regularly if we were up or down, regardless. But I know for a fact that most of the people on the fence who weren't wearing a beanie, myself included, were freezing their socks off. So on Saturday afternoon, we got the Swans and the Suns. Now, before this game, there is the NEFL curtain raiser, which could be the second game of the Bionic Man Alex Johnson, who is still on the comeback trail from his 5th knee reconstruction. Did you by chance happen to hear about Alex Johnson during the week?
I did. I was, as someone who finds it hard to commit to anything, even watch a full series on TV, the fact he's committed to something for so long is just amazing, And then I saw the footage of all the players running around him after he kicked that goal. So it was a great story.
Oh, it's a fantastic story, and I think maybe a bit of a shambolic situation arose when the NEFL didn't even broadcast the match. Instead, they broadcast the match between two cellar dwellers, and I reckon they had about 3 viewers. But so yeah, quick preview of the game. It's on Saturday afternoon at the SCG, 4:35. Yeah, that's it. How'd you like that preview?
Well, I think if you can't beat the Suns,
we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
You're in trouble. But you should beat them the way you're playing. I don't think you guys have quite connected fully yet. I still think you've got a bit to go, but
not since the Hawthorn game, anyway.
And the Suns have been terrible for a long time. They're pretty disappointing. But I don't know. Lynch kicked 5 this week. And, so it won't be easy, but I think you should get up.
Yeah. It's one of those games where, again, you don't know what you're going to get, and there's been a lot of talk and a lot of articles written about just how even the season is. And we talked about it last week. Where I asked Rowan, does he think it's more the players, the coaches, and the clubs who are responsible for the evenness across the competition, or is it more AFL driven? And to be honest, it's kind of hard to see why it's so even. It's not like the really bad teams suddenly became really good, because they're still kind of really bad. It's just the good teams have kind of, come back to the pack a bit. They're not anywhere near as good as they used to be.
Yeah, I think we're in a bit of a flux between, we had the Hawthorn, Sydney, Geelong era really dominating, and now it's a bit with those clubs just, in different stages of trouble, or, apart from Geelong really, but they've changed a fair bit. It's just different teams, got gold. The GWS have sucked in a lot of the talent, but aren't quite sweeping all before them like everyone thought. So,
and
it is an even season. And I think some of the rule changes have made it a bit more competitive, as much as it can be frustrating sometimes, having to keep the ball in a lot more. And, I think that's all making it a bit more competitive. So, but the real joy of it is none of us really know.
Yeah, you go into every round and you really don't know who's going to win. I mean, we can do a quick look over the round. We've got Adelaide and Western Bulldogs. We both know with both of those teams at their best, that would be a very, very good game. But Adelaide has been flogged a couple of times at home, embarrassingly so. And your lot did a really good number on them over at Adelaide Oval, which I was shocked to see. It could be another one of those, where Adelaide just kind of think, they're a bit complacent going in, and the Dogs turn up to win. Then you got Hawthorn and the Giants. That one's down in Tasmania, I think. US. I'm not quite sure where US is. Collingwood Essendon, that's going to be an absolute cracker. You got the Swans Suns. I mean, if Suns really turn up, they could make a really good game of it. You got the Lions and the Cats up at the Gabba, and it's not like the Lions haven't beaten them up there before. You got the Saints in Richmond. That's a massive one. North Melbourne Fremantle. Well, I'd usually say North Melbourne to win that, but to be honest, they've...
Well, Freo got Sandilands out.
Yes.
He's out for the rest of the season, so...
But I think North Melbourne have been watching too many of the Saw movies and they've been doing a bit too much to themselves. So, then you got Carlton and Melbourne. Oh, if it could have got worse for Melbourne, I think it just did.
Well, I mean, I think there's a real... I mean, I think Melbourne will really struggle this week. They've got serious injuries. I mean... You know, you could probably argue our top, six out of our top 8 best players are not playing, and that's, and then some of the other key players. I mean, even Bugg, who's actually been pretty good for us when he's not whacking blokes. Yeah, he's not going to be here for a while. And Viney's now out for about 6 weeks. So,
and he's your biggest loss by a mile. That guy is the heart of your midfield along with Jones, and the fact you're going to have them both out, you've almost got no
Jones
midfield.
Out and, Clayton Oliver had his worst game against you guys on the weekend, and it was partly because with no Jones out there and, Viney struggling and not playing a lot of the game, it was just, you managed to just really, it was much easier to take care of, Tyson and these, but usually you can't always do that, so.
Look, and it's going to be a really difficult game for the Demons, but if they manage to win, I think that would go down as maybe their best win of the season to date, considering the situation they're in, because their depth in the midfield is seriously going to be tested.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Carlton are probably going to get up there.
They should. I think Carlton should get up, but this could be one of those you just never know matches, and Melbourne might just throw caution to the wind and belt them by 40 points just as likely as they are to lose by 40. So I don't think this is going to be a close one. It's going to go either way, but I think by at least 4 or 5 goals. And here's another cracker. Eagles and Port Adelaide, but over in Perth.
Yeah. The Eagles, who knows now?
Yep.
After what they did on the weekend.
Yeah, they'll go on home, no longer mummy's boys, and get flogged by Port Adelaide, who got beaten convincingly.
Yeah, no, Port have just been really unimpressive, and I think I'd be going with the Eagles there just because of Port's inability and travelling over there. I think it'd be hard, but they have one in China, so Perth's not that far.
Yeah, look, I was reading an article today. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was on The Age, where someone was talking about the fact that Port Adelaide, even with their really high percentage, it's not that impressive because they haven't really beaten many contenders or really any good teams. They've really beaten teams that were quite low on the ladder at the time or really bad teams, and they've really hammered them big time. But when they've played the good teams, they've really come up short almost every single time. So, and if I just have a quick look, I've got on this page, I've got the odds for a couple of games. We've got the Crows at well on heavy favourites at $1.29. We've got the Giants at $1.42. We've got Essendon at 180. We've got Sydney as the heaviest favourites of the round. They're 113 with the Suns at 6. Then you've got the Cats at 117 with the Lions at 5. And then we've got Richmond at 156 against the Saints, who are 245. I don't think...
You're bigger favourites than... who's playing Brisbane?
Geelong.
You're bigger favourites than Geelong.
Yep, but I think because Brisbane's come and done the snatch and run away job, they've
I find that amazing.
They've come in a bit. They've come in a bit from $12 to $5.
Right.
Yeah, it's I'm not quite sure about that one. I would expect Cass to get it up, but look, you just never know.
Yeah.
But now we can move on to our good call and bad call. So I'll start off with Stephen's calls of last week. He had a Sydney win. I think that's a good call.
Very good.
Good call.
I said Sydney would win too, so I hope I get that one too.
Oh, look, he played it safe because our previous couple of predictions were laughably bad. So he got this one wrong, though. Gary Ablett's 300th, not this weekend. Nope. And then he had one game decided by less than one goal. Now, I actually did have the scoreboard before. Let me just double check. I am pretty sure that it was more than one. I know my prediction on this manor didn't actually go anywhere near it. Let me just bring it up real quick. We've got 7 points, 12 points, a lot more, draw, 8 points. Wow, and 9 points. Well, I think I'd say, yeah, one game decided by less than a goal. Well, it wasn't decided, it was a draw, so okay, now I had 4 games less than 10 points. So that is correct because I've got Eagles by 7. I've got Cats and Giants draw, Lions by 8, and Saints by 9. Or would you say that draw is cheating?
It's close.
All right, we'll go. Struck that out. Swans by 3 goals. Yeah, They should have been 3 goals up in the first 5 minutes.
That's right.
And Franklin 5+ goals. Oh, he was so close. And they were trying to pass it to him in the last couple of minutes too. So now, just to finish it off, could you please give me your 3 predictions for this round?
Oh, for this round
Yep.
already. Starting to turn my mind to it. I think we could see the Bulldogs lose and be out of the finals this week.
Yep.
I think we could even see an upset of Hawthorn potentially beating GWS.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it would be funny. I like the idea of that one.
Oh, it'd be unbearably funny, but unbearable at the same time.
And I think if Essendon beat Collingwood, it's pretty much all done for Buckley. So I don't think they'll move on him till the end of the year. But
yeah,
that'll be beyond what they can hang on anymore.
Oh, look, the writing's on the wall, pretty much, where Buckley is concerned, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't mind him as a guy, but he has been hilariously bad as a coach.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. He's always been seen as a good media performer and a good person, and that's what's kept him around for a long, long time. When, if he didn't have those qualities, he probably would have been gone a long time ago.
And I loved his media performance last week on Footy Classified, where he was criticising the doorstop nature of journalism, which is very much ingrained in AFL journalism and the culture within. So he's always said it straight. He's always been honest and shoots from the hip. But unfortunately, that's landed him in quite a fair bit of hot water as well.
His problem is he can't coach. So
yeah, if you can't coach, this ain't the job for you if you can't do it.
No.
All right. So now for myself, predictions. I am going with Lions to win. Lions to win by under a goal.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I am also going to say that Tom Mitchell is going to have 40+ in a loss.
Oh. Doesn't he do that every Hawthorn loss?
You're right, that is a bit safe. I'm going to change that to 45. And I should put in brackets, Buckley will come out and ask, was it worth it? I'm just trying to think for lols, but St Kilda and Richmond draw.
Oh, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
It'd be a meltdown.
Yeah. just for last, but if that comes out, that's going to be fantastic. Well, that's it for tonight's show. Thank you very much, Titus, for coming on. Been an absolute pleasure.
No problem at all. And look forward to see everyone come along to my show.
Absolutely.
1st of September.
Definitely, and I hope to be there. I'd definitely love to see some of your comedy work. Yeah, so once again, thank you so much for coming on. Look, until next time, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining us. And remember, you can always stay in contact with us on social media and using the hashtag SwansCast. Thank you very much, and good night.